Welcome to my channel, where we dive deep into global geopolitics and unravel the complexities behind the world's most volatile conflicts. Today, we explore the explosive relationship between Iran and Israel, a geopolitical nightmare drawing in powers from around the globe. If you're interested in staying informed on such crucial topics, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now let's dive in. A clash of destinies, setting the stage. The Middle East, a region synonymous with ancient history and enduring conflicts, finds itself at a critical juncture. At the heart of this contemporary crisis lies the volatile relationship between Iran and Israel, two nations locked in a bitter struggle for regional dominance and ideological supremacy. This rivalry, with its complex web of historical grievances, religious differences, and geopolitical ambitions, has far-reaching implications, not just for the Middle East but for the entire world. Fueling this dangerous dynamic is a potent mix of factors, including Iran's pursuit of nuclear capabilities, its support for regional militant groups, and its fierce opposition to Israel's existence. Iran's ideological opposition to Israel is deeply rooted in the Islamic Republic's foreign policy, where Israel is seen as a Zionist regime occupying Palestinian lands. Israel, for its part, views Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat and has repeatedly vowed to prevent Tehran from acquiring atomic weapons. We will examine the role of external actors, such as the United States, Russia, and China, in shaping the contours of this rivalry. Understanding the dynamics of this volatile relationship is essential for anyone seeking to navigate the complex and perilous terrain of Middle Eastern politics. This ideological battle shapes much of the regional dynamics from Syria to Gaza. Revolution and rupture, 1979 and the birth of enmity. The year 1979 marked a turning point in Iran-Israel relations. The Iranian Revolution, which saw the overthrow of the US-backed Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and the rise of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, fundamentally transformed the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Before the revolution, Iran and Israel had maintained a relatively cordial relationship, with close cooperation in the fields of trade, intelligence sharing, and military collaboration. However, the Islamic Republic's triumph heralded a new era of hostility. Khomeini, a staunch critic of Israel, severed all ties with the Jewish state, declaring it an illegitimate entity and calling for its destruction. Iran's new leaders withdrew their country's recognition of Israel and pledged support for Palestinian militant groups opposed to its existence. The die was cast, and the stage was set for a decades-long rivalry that would shape the political and security dynamics of the entire Middle East. Beyond politics, the theological roots of discord. While geopolitical factors undoubtedly play a significant role in the Iran-Israel conflict, it is crucial to recognize the profound influence of ideology and religion. At the heart of this rivalry lies a fundamental clash of worldviews, rooted in differing interpretations of history, faith, and destiny. For Iran's Islamic Republic, Israel represents an affront to its core beliefs. The regime's legitimacy rests on its claim to be the vanguard of Islam, defending the faith against its enemies. Israel, established on land considered sacred by Muslims, is portrayed as a usurper, an outpost of Western imperialism in the heart of the Islamic world. On the other side, many Israelis view Iran's hostility through the lens of history, recalling centuries of anti-Semitism and persecution. Iran's rhetoric, particularly its denial of the Holocaust and calls for Israel's destruction, evokes deep-seated fears and anxieties within Israeli society. As long as these fundamental differences persist, finding a lasting and peaceful resolution to the Iran-Israel conflict will remain an elusive goal. The nuclear shadow, Tehran's ambitions, Jerusalem's fears. No issue has cast a darker shadow over the Iran-Israel rivalry than the question of Iran's nuclear ambitions. Iran's pursuit of nuclear technology, while it maintains is for peaceful purposes, has sparked widespread alarm in Israel and beyond, fueling fears that Tehran seeks to develop nuclear weapons capability. Israel, the only nuclear-armed state in the Middle East, views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. Iranian leaders have repeatedly called for Israel's destruction, and Israel fears that Tehran, once armed with nuclear weapons, would be emboldened to attack or support attacks against it. To counter this perceived threat, Israel has pursued a multi-pronged strategy, including intense diplomatic efforts and covert operations. Over the years, Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, has been accused of conducting numerous covert operations, including assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists and cyber attacks aimed at derailing Iran's progress. But despite these efforts, Iran continues to push forward. The possibility of a preemptive Israeli military strike against Iran's nuclear facilities has been a constant source of speculation and tension. Israel has made it clear that a nuclear-armed Iran is a red line that cannot be crossed. The nuclear issue has become a defining feature of the Iran-Israel rivalry, adding a dangerous and unpredictable element to an already volatile relationship. Unconventional warfare, proxies and preemption in the Middle East. The Iran-Israel conflict is marked by a shadowy war fought through proxies and covert operations. Iran supports militant groups to undermine Israel. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria are all key actors in Iran's strategy to destabilize Israeli security and shift regional power balances in Tehran's favor. Hezbollah is the most prominent example of Iran's proxy strategy. Founded in the 1980s, Hezbollah can launch rocket attacks and engage in guerrilla warfare. Israel responds with preemption and targeted strikes. Airstrikes on Iranian-backed forces in Syria to disrupting arms shipments to Hezbollah. Israel aims to weaken Iran's proxies before they can pose an immediate threat. This shadow war adds a dangerous and unpredictable dimension to the conflict. The Great Game revisited. Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and the balance of power. The rivalry between Iran and Israel does not exist in a vacuum. Global powers shape this conflict with their interests and agendas. The U.S., an ally of Israel, views Iran with suspicion. Concerns about Iran's nuclear program and regional influence drive U.S. policy. Russia maintains ties with Tehran while sharing some Western concerns. China seeks to secure oil and trade routes, cultivating ties with both nations. Russia's involvement in Syria complicates Israel's airstrike operations, while China's oil trade with Iran undercuts Western sanctions. These global powers add complexity to the Iran-Israel rivalry. 2024. A year on the brink. The year 2024 has witnessed a dangerous escalation in tensions between Iran and Israel, pushing the region closer to the brink of war. A series of incidents, accusations, and retaliatory strikes have created a climate of fear and uncertainty, raising fears of a wider conflagration. In February 2024, Israel launched a series of airstrikes against targets in Iran, claiming that Iran has ramped up its nuclear enrichment activities. Iran denied these accusations, claiming that the strikes targeted civilian infrastructure. In response, Iran threatened retaliation, vowing to strike back at Israel and its interest in the region. Tensions further escalated in March 2024, when a cargo ship owned by an Israeli company was attacked in the Arabian Sea. The assassination of key figures, both in Israel and Iran, has also inflamed tensions, with global powers watching closely, aware that any miscalculation could lead to an all-out war. The situation remains extremely volatile, with both sides on high alert. Beyond the battlefield, global echoes of a regional rivalry. While the conflict between Iran and Israel is primarily a regional one, its consequences reverberate far beyond the Middle East with far-reaching consequences. The rivalry has profound implications for global security, the global economy, and the international order. One of the most significant global implications is the potential impact on energy markets. The Middle East is home to some of the world's largest oil reserves, and any disruption to oil production or transportation routes could have severe consequences for the global economy. Iran, located on the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway for oil shipments, has repeatedly threatened to close the strait in response to sanctions or military action. The conflict also has implications for nuclear non-proliferation. Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons capability has raised alarm bells around the world, raising fears of a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. The international community has a vested interest in preventing this rivalry from escalating into a wider conflict and in seeking a peaceful resolution that addresses the legitimate concerns of all parties involved. Moreover, the conflict could draw in global powers, escalating into a wider war that impacts international trade, security, and diplomacy. The quest for resolution. Diplomacy, deterrence, and the specter of war. The path to resolving the Iran-Israel conflict remains fraught with obstacles. Decades of mistrust, Animosity and violence have created a seemingly insurmountable chasm between the two adversaries. However, despite the formidable challenges, the pursuit of peace remains an imperative, demanding a multifaceted approach that combines diplomacy, deterrence, and a willingness to address the underlying grievances of both sides. Diplomacy, while often dismissed as ineffective in the face of such deep-seated hostility, remains the most viable option for achieving a lasting solution. Deterrence, while essential for preventing miscalculation and deterring aggression, cannot be the sole basis for a long-term strategy. Addressing the underlying grievances of both sides is crucial for building a foundation for lasting peace. The pursuit of peace will require both sides to make difficult choices, confront deeply held beliefs, and demonstrate a willingness to compromise. The long shadow of conflict, looking towards an uncertain future. The conflict between Iran and Israel stands as one of the most intractable and dangerous rivalries in the world. Its roots run deep, entangled in history, religion, and geopolitics. The shadow of this conflict looms large, threatening to engulf the Middle East in a wider conflagration. The potential for miscalculation, unintended escalation, and all-out war remains a constant threat. The absence of trust, the lack of effective communication channels, and the deeply ingrained animosity between the two sides make finding a peaceful resolution an arduous task. However, despite the challenges, the pursuit of peace remains an imperative, a moral and strategic necessity. The international community has a responsibility to work towards a peaceful resolution of this conflict. The future of the Middle East, and indeed the world, may depend on our ability to find a path to peace. Is there a way out? Diplomatic efforts have been made to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions, with the JCPOA being one of the most notable. However, Israel remains skeptical of any deal that does not entirely dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure. As the US attempts to balance its support for Israel with avoiding a broader war, the path forward remains uncertain. The conflict between Iran and Israel is not just about these two nations. It's a powder keg with the potential to ignite the entire Middle East and involve global powers. What do you think? Can diplomacy work, or is an escalation inevitable? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to stay informed on this critical issue.